Coming up on Arirang News. From the latest intercontinental ballistic missiles to unmanned spy drones, North Korea showcases its weapons by holding a massive military parade to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Korean War Armistice Agreement, or what it calls Victory Day. In June, South Korea's industrial output rose on month for the second consecutive month, thanks to the service industries. Private spending and investment in facilities all increased for the second month in a row as well. Prosecutors launch an investigation to further investigate who's to blame for the recent flooding of an underpass in Osong in the central city of Cheongju, which claimed 14 lives. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start across the border in the north. As widely expected, North Korea held a military parade overnight, showing off ICBMs in the presence of Chinese and Russian delegations, marking the 70th anniversary of the Korean War Armistice. Bae-eun-ji reports.
North Korea staged a huge military parade on Thursday night to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the armistice that ended the Korean War, or what the North calls Victory Day. The opening ceremony for the event reportedly started at around 8 p.m., followed by the parade, which went on for about 2 hours. Edited video footage on the North State television on Friday afternoon showed the regime displaying intercontinental ballistic missiles, including the Hwasong 18 and Hwasong 17. The state media described them as the most powerful means of the country's strategic force to counter enemies' nuclear threats. The parade also featured a flyover by new spy and attack drones, revealed in photos of an arms exhibition the day before. The spy drone looked just like the U.S. Global Hawk surveillance aircraft, and the attack drone resembled a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper. Other than the unmanned drones, no other new weapons were introduced. Also showcased at the parade was the North's underwater drone called Hail, which the regime claims to be capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was at the event but did not deliver a speech. Instead, the North's defense minister did, accusing the U.S. and its allies of increasing tensions in the region.
We are ready. It's for the enemies to decide. We will defend our country from any more danger, no matter the cost.
Russian and Chinese officials who had come to Pyongyang this week also attended the parade. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Chinese Communist Party Politburo member Lee Hong-jung were seen standing shoulder to shoulder with Kim Jong-un. Throughout the event, Kim was seen constantly talking and exchanging smiles with the two officials, apparently to show that the North is backed by these two neighboring countries. One expert also says the delegation taking part in the event likely means the North's COVID-19 lockdown is coming to an end.
The North Korean regime is moving inch closer to actual opening of the national borders, which means that the resumption of trade with China in full scale in coming days.
The visits of Russian and Chinese officials are the first known foreign delegations to visit North Korea since the pandemic began. Bae-eun-ji, Arirang News.
A commemoration ceremony to mark the 70th anniversary of the Korean Armistice Agreement was also held in the U.S., attended by war veterans and families of the fallen heroes. South Korea's ambassador to the U.S., Cho Hyun-dong, who was at the event held at the Korean War Veterans Memorial in Washington, highlighted the sacrifices made by American service members in the Korean War, saying that's what made the alliance between the two countries possible. Expressing his deepest gratitude, he added the alliance will continue to strengthen in response to North Korea's growing nuclear and missile threats. As South Korea marks the 70th anniversary of the Korean War ceasefire this week, our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung sat down with the nation's veterans minister Bang Min-sik, who echoed words of gratitude to all those who fought for freedom for this country.
A big week for South Korea as it marked the 70th anniversary of the Korean War Armistice. Speaking to Arirang News, the Minister of Patriots and Veterans Affairs Bang Min-sik highlighted the progress South Korea has been able to make thanks to the dedication of foreign veterans.
Wasn't it just ruins during the war? South Korea was able to overcome the ruins and make truly amazing progress. We want to repay our greatest gratitude to the veterans through our success.
Delegations from 22 countries, including 64 Korean War veterans, visited South Korea's port city of Busan to take part in various events. Minister Park explained there is a special reason behind Busan being the host city this year.
Busan was the wartime capital, and it was also the place where war veterans from 22 nations first arrived in this unknown country at the time. It's also very symbolic, as about 2,300 UN veterans are still buried in Busan.
With ongoing threats to global security, the minister also stressed that the Korean War delivers an important message to the international community.
For example, Russia is invading Ukraine. Even there, many government representatives, including our president, are really emphasizing the spirit of solidarity for freedom. The Korean War and the 70th anniversary are evidence that such efforts are not just words, but they have been put into action.
Park also underlined that Veterans Affairs and National Defense come together, considering the fact that North Korea continues to threaten the South and the international community through its continuous provocations. The minister also told Arirang News that he feels regretful when it comes to the limited significance our society puts on veterans' affairs today.
When it comes to veterans, people would reluctantly bow their heads to show respect. But our country isn't doing things properly if we aren't properly honoring those who sacrifice for our country. It is not just the past, but it's the future. It's the practical foundation for the prosperity of South Korea.
To show the further appreciation South Korea has toward all those who gave a helping hand, the minister vowed to create a culture where Korean people can naturally feel the importance of veterans' affairs.
우리 참전 용사분들의 70년 전의 위대한 희생과 헌신에 대해서 우리 대한민국 국민들 아직도 또 앞으로도 영원히 진심으로 감사를 드립니다.
Choi Min-dong, Arirang News, Busan.
Seoul's foreign ministry called in a senior Japanese diplomat on this Friday morning to protest Tokyo's renewed claim over Dokdo in its latest annual defense white paper. Director General for Asia and Pacific Affairs Seo Min-jung summoned acting deputy chief of mission at the Japanese embassy here in Seoul, Mondo Yamamoto. The ministry also shared a statement that condemned Japan's unjust claims over Korea's Dokdo Island, pointing out that such unwarranted assertions hinder efforts to promote a future-oriented relationship between the two countries. Japan has been falsely laying claim over South Korea's Dokdo for the past 19 years. On the economic front, findings for the month of June show some improvements in the industrial output, facility investment, and private spending for the second month in a row. Our Moon Hye-ryun has the details.
South Korea's overall industrial production, spending, and investments all rose for the second month in a row. According to Statistics Korea on Friday, industrial production in June rose by 0.1% from May. It's a smaller increase on month than what was recorded in May at 1.3% due to a decline in the mining, manufacturing, and gas and electricity sectors, but a rise in production in the service sector pushed production levels up overall. There was also increased output in the semiconductor industry, which slowed the decline, tallying up to a rise of 3.6% on month. By quarter, semiconductor production rose by over 20% in comparison to the previous quarter for the first time since Q1 of last year. To support this rise in production, outbound shipments of chips also rose by over 41% on month, bringing the total value of chip exports to the highest so far this year at nearly $9 billion. South Korea has been suffering from sluggish IT exports for a while, logging consecutive on-year declines for nearly a year. But this rise in exports has led to the greatest on-month fall in chip inventory numbers since data was first compiled in 1975, falling by over 6%.
A key takeaway from this month's data is that while the rise in manufacturing production was lower than the 3% increase last month, inventory levels fell by 6.2% on the back of significant increases in exports for 2 consecutive months.
As for retail sales, a key measure of private spending, the country saw a 1% rise compared to May. While sales in non-durable and semi-durable goods fell, a rise in auto sales contributed to the overall rise. Facility investment also saw a rise of 0.2% due to large investments in the automobile sector. Economic recovery still remains modest due to these figures showing weak growth, but the economic slowdown is showing signs of alleviating in the second half of the year. The central bank announced earlier this week that the real gross domestic product value, a key gauge of economic growth, increased 0.6% on quarter during the April to June period. 문혜련, Arirang News.
President Yoon on Friday spoke with Peter Vennink, the CEO of Dutch semiconductor giant ASML, encouraging further investment in South Korea and cooperation to stabilize the global chip supply chain. Holding talks at the presidential office in Yongsan, the president noted that ASML, the world's leading producer of lithography machines, is currently building a chip equipment cluster in the city of Hwasong, Gyeonggi-do province. Yoon said he hopes that the cluster will lead to cooperation between the Dutch firm and Korean makers of parts, materials, and equipment, in turn strengthening the local industry. Noting the growth of Korean chip firms, Vennink said he hopes to continue discussing ways to cooperate in semiconductor investment with Korea. This marked the second time Yoon met with Vennink following their first meeting at the Korea-Netherlands summit in November last year, where the two countries agreed on the need for a value-based partnership to attain economic security. Following the unveiling of its latest Galaxy Z Flip 5 and Z Fold, Samsung Electronics plans to make foldable phones in its mainstream product, with the goal of raising sales of these to over 20% for its premium phone lineup. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
Roughly 2 years remain for Samsung Electronics to achieve the goal it announced last year, which is to have foldable phones account for more than half of its total premium smartphone shipments by 2025. To accomplish this, raising the popularity of the recently unveiled 5th generation Galaxy foldable phones is crucial. During a press conference held in Seoul on Friday, Samsung's mobile chief expressed confidence in its foldable products.
Samsung's foldable products are expected to surpass 30 million in cumulative global sales in 2023, marking a crucial tipping point for the foldable sector this year.
He added that the company will raise global foldable sales to more than 20% of its premium phone lineup this year. The plan comes amid a rising global market for premium smartphones or those with a wholesale price of $600 or more. According to technology market research firm Counterpoint Research, the share of premium smartphones among total smartphone sales increased from 27% in 2017 to 55% last year. Samsung is currently at the top in terms of global smartphone market share. But it's a different story when it comes to the premium smartphone market, as Apple dominates with a 75% share. To have a stronger presence on the market, Samsung's strategy focuses on bringing folding smartphones into the mainstream by expanding its Galaxy ecosystem.
Our top priority is to make foldable devices go mainstream. Once we achieve that, various achievements, including financial results, are likely to follow.
One expert says the Korean tech giant is on the right track to gain ground in the premium phone market.
A better premium phone convinces consumers that it's worth the extra cost due to subtle differences in the experience. Samsung these days is prioritizing enhancing the user experience over high-tech features in its phone design. Creating an experience is actually what Apple is really good at, and this shift puts Samsung in a position to rival Apple's brand power.
The industry's focus is now on Apple. As the new iPhone series is expected to be unveiled in the latter half of the year, competition between the two tech giants is expected to intensify. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
The government calls for a probe to look into the recent flooding at a local underpass that took the lives of 14 people in Korea. The investigation blames poor management and oversight as more related officials are said to be investigated. In the meantime, the ruling People Power Party and the government agreed upon more help for farmers for restoration. Our Kim Do-yeon has the details.
The South Korean government is referring a total of 36 people to the nation's investigative body following a 10-day inspection into the deadly underpass flooding in Osong, Chungcheongbuk-do province, which led to 14 deaths on July 15th. The announcement came on Friday as it looked into the cause of the incident and who's responsible.
Despite receiving numerous warnings and police reports, including heavy rain and flood alerts, the related agencies responsible for the underground passage and the nearby river failed to recognize the seriousness of the situation and respond in time, leading to what happened, as revealed by the investigation.
The underground road in Cheongju was flooded after an embankment collapsed as a result of rising water levels amid torrential downpours earlier this month, with several vehicles stuck in, including a bus. The Office of Government Policy Coordination also added an unauthorized removal of the existing embankment below a bridge nearby and a weak temporary embankment, along with the failure to properly monitor and supervise it, were also contributing factors to the incident. Among the dozens referred for investigation are people from multiple government sectors, including Chungcheongbuk-do province and Cheongju city governments. In addition, the government will recommend that 63 public servants across 5 different government agencies will be punished internally. In the meantime, the ruling People Power Party and the Yoon administration discussed ways to recover from the recent flood damage. Attended by the leadership of PPP and Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, among others, the meeting focused primarily on recovering the nation's agriculture businesses as days of rain and flooding have resulted in widespread agricultural damage. They agreed to increase support funds to ensure substantial assistance to farmers affected by disasters, considering that the current recovery funds provided are not sufficient. The specific amounts of support for each sector will be announced by the central headquarters next week. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
A 3-year-old giant panda living at Everland, Korea's largest amusement park, has become a superstar, with videos of her on YouTube having gone viral. But Fubao isn't just an adorable panda. She's part of the Chinese government's efforts to foster friendly relations through pandas. Our culture correspondent Song Yu-jin takes a look into Beijing's panda diplomacy.
Black eyes and ears, surrounded by a white coat of fur, Fubao, the giant panda, has captured the hearts of people in Korea. It's a regular weekday morning, but minutes after Everland opens its gates, it's packed with people.
When I watch videos of Fubao, she's absolutely adorable and charming.
I feel a deeper affection for her because she's the first panda ever to be born in Korea.
This year, the craze around this 3-year-old panda reached new heights when her zookeeper revealed in May that she'll have to move to China next year. After the news, the average number of daily visitors to Everland during the last week of May rose 20% when compared to the first week. For Fubao's zookeeper tryout program, more than 13,000 people applied for 3 available spots. But why does Fubao have to go to China? That's because all pandas and their offspring legally belong to Beijing. China has been long using pandas as a diplomatic tool.
Panda Diplomacy began in 1972 when then Chinese President Mao Zedong gifted 2 pandas to the US after President Nixon's visit to Beijing. Their cuteness sparked a worldwide demand, promoting China to loan pandas to other countries as a way to foster friendly relations.
Current Chinese President Xi Jinping sent Fubao's parents, Aibao and Lebao, to Korea in 2016 when bilateral ties were relatively stable. With the recent strain in relations, some wonder whether Fubao could come to the rescue. China's ambassador to Korea, Xing Haiming, visited Everland and presented a thank you plaque on Fubao's 3rd birthday. This was after his previous controversial remarks about China's rivalry with the U.S., which seemingly targeted the Korean government.
Koreans' affection towards pandas can positively influence their perception of China. Everland's panda videos are going viral on Chinese social media platforms. This could lead to new civilian exchanges and public diplomacy programs, ultimately influencing political and diplomatic relations too.
With negotiations for Fubao's return set to start next month, all eyes are on what decision will be made and how that'll affect Seoul-Beijing ties. 송유진, Arirang News.
July is said to be the hottest month on record, with the UN chief warning that the world is entering an era of global boiling. Lee Seung-jae has more.
July 2023, even with a few more days left to go, is still set to become the hottest month on human record. That's according to the World Meteorological Organization in a report published Thursday, which noted that the heat this month has been so extreme that it's virtually certain this month will break records by a significant margin. It added that the world has seen the hottest 3-week period on record in more than 100,000 years, with figures based on average air temperature across the entire world. The global average air temperature in the first 23 days of July was 16.95 degrees Celsius, far above the previous record of 16.63 degrees Celsius recorded in July 2019. In response to the alarming figures, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Thursday warned that the era of global warming has ended and that the era of global boiling has now arrived.
Climate change is here, it is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived. The air is unbreathable, the heat is unbearable.
Stressing that the level of fossil fuel profits and climate inaction is unacceptable, Guterres called on world leaders to stop making excuses and begin making substantial changes now. Meanwhile, in response to the record heat the U.S. is experiencing this summer, U.S. President Joe Biden said at the White House on Thursday that the high temperatures will be more severe in the future, adding that no one can deny climate change. While mentioning that more than 600 deaths occur every year due to high temperatures in the U.S., he announced new steps to protect workers, including a hazard alert notifying employers and employees of ways to protect themselves from the intense heat. The latest announcement from Biden comes as nearly 40% of the U.S. population is facing heat advisories, according to a recent report by the National Weather Service. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Intense heat will continue to sweep across South Korea for both Saturday and Sunday. With on and off showers at times, Seoul will see highs of 33 to 34 degrees Celsius this weekend. This is about 4 degrees higher than the seasonal average. Unstable atmospheric conditions will produce scattered outbreaks of rainfall for inland regions. Overall, inland regions will see around 5 to 40 millimeters. It may look like it's not going to rain, but sudden showers containing thunder and lightning will come without notice. Make sure to have your umbrellas handy. In the meantime, UV ray index will be extremely high for this entire weekend. Most regions will see UV ray index in the very high range for both Saturday and Sunday. Make sure to wear your sun protective items such as a hat or sunscreen when heading out. Morning temperatures in Seoul will start off at 26 degrees. Daejeon and Gwangju at 25 degrees. Highs in Seoul will get up to 34, Daegu 35, and Gyeongju will be scorching hot at 36 degrees. Scorching hot conditions will continue to bake the nation for next week. Have a great weekend, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all for this Friday night newscast. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Good night.